I rise today as a member of the Legislative Black Caucus to present SCR 21, recognizing February as Black History Month. And in 2025, this celebration is really a call to action. Black history in America has always been a history of struggle, a history of resistance, of resilience. And today that struggle continues in ways we could not have imagined. We see it at the federal level. We hear it from some of our constituencies in their darkest hour, where division and hate have dominated our public discourse. And so as we think about Black history this month, we have to think about it in terms of what does it mean to be free in this country? And how incredibly important the example that Black Americans have shared is that comes at the price of bravery. You cannot be free in America if you are not brave, if you are not courageous. This month really focuses on workers, African Americans, and labor. And certainly from our earliest time in this country, Black Americans have shown not only that we were able to build this country, but we also were able to fight for dignity and fairness and justice, not just on the plantation fields, but in our government and in our democracy as a whole. As a Black labor activist and the first woman to chair this body's labor committee, that theme had particular resonance for me as we look at and understand the contributions of Black workers, even how we came up with Labor Day. Where did Labor Day come from? Well, it was President Cleveland who signed and recognized that Labor Day would be celebrated in this country because it was the Black sleeping car porters who, through their labor of strike and resistance, showed the power of workers. And not just the power of workers, but the dignity of all who work. And I think that is a lesson that we have to go back to today, is to recognize that we have a long way to go to ensure that Black California, that Black history accounts for the struggles that we continue to see. As we make up 6% of our state's population as Black Californians, we are 25% of the impoverished. We are 28% of the prison population. We are 40% of the people who sleep and too often die on our streets in places like South Los Angeles. And these outcomes are not coincidences, but they are predictable. They are a result of systemic disinvestment in our communities. And it's part of a value and an attitude of lack of courage to say that an injustice to one community is an injustice to all of our communities. And we understand this now more than ever as we see a fascist rise and voice emerge at the highest levels of our government. We see for the first time a president attempting to erase Black History Month from federal government, barring agencies from observing it and silencing Black employees who dare to celebrate their own history. Make no mistake, this is part of a broader attack on all of our values, not just on Black communities, but we see it more prevalent in the Black right to vote, in the attacks on Voting Rights Act. We see it more prevalently in teaching Black children their history and also ensuring that our community has an opportunity to work fair and just. We talk about this being an employment situation where every worker is employed, but do you know that there's double-digit unemployment in Black South Central Los Angeles today? Do you know Black workers, particularly Black women, represent some of the poorest households because they aren't able to earn a living wage, even though they are the primary breadwinners. So as we talk about Black history this year, we have to not just be about celebrating, we have to be about how do we operationalize it for all of us. What does it mean to say that we want to empower all Californians to understand this history of struggle, of courage for justice? I'm committed to that fight, and I know you all are committed in this room as well, ensuring that we are expanding economic opportunities, that we are ensuring our children learn the truth. It not only sets you free, but it also helps you prevent the harms of the past from being repeated. History protects us. And Black history has protected us all in so many different ways, from the Frederick Douglass fight on abolition to our 2020 fight of Black Lives Matter, and all of the ways that we came to a reckoning about what was unjust. We cannot go back. We have to stay committed to leveling this playing field, to making sure that our public dollars are creating fairness and opportunity for all, that we are multiplying equity and not distancing ourselves from it. Our fight is far from over. We must remain relentless in our pursuit of justice and equity. We have to be like those leaders, A. Philip Randolph and others, who stood up to say that yes, sleeping car porters deserved the right to organize, that stood up and said that our armed forces must be desegregated and that diversity matters in our military. A. Philip Randolph, who said we need an economic opportunity within our public government so that the government reflects the workforce. And here we see today heads of our military being fired because they're just talking about and ensuring that we actually can accomplish our values and our commitments to diversity. We are seeing our communities being vilified, particularly our federal workers. The workers help our democracy work. And it is a large democracy, which means it deserves a fair and representative workforce. But we see those jobs being cut and those workers being vilified. And I want to tell you, it is going to have a tremendous economic impact, not just in DC, but in California, when public sector workers are sidelined. So I want to remind us of the words of Dr. King, that an injustice to one is an injustice to all. And we're in a moment where there is a lot of injustice to all. And what does that mean? That means we need one united front. One united front that will fight for diversity, that will fight for equity, that will fight for inclusion. That is not seen as a weakness, but as our strength. So now more than ever, let us show in this chamber some solidarity. Let us look beyond our racial and ethnic lines and see the justice lines of unity that can help us stop this violence that is happening against our government, by our government at all levels. Black history has taught us that freedom is never given, it is extracted, and rather, we have to be brave and courageous in our fight. I urge my colleagues to recognize today as no regular session, no business as usual, but as a call to action, that we stand united on all-out attacks against the rights of so many of us, and that we commit to the mission of equity where Californians can truly thrive and be united in the one America, the one state that my ancestors, those who created Black History Month, envisioned for us today. And with that, I respectfully ask for your aye vote.